Welcome to the Sacred Sound Summit. I'm your host, Shannon Brown, sound ceremonialist, vocalist, educator, and guide. May the wisdom shared here inspire you to listen more deeply, trust your own voice, and discover new possibilities for working with sound in your life, your practice, and your community. Today, I'm joined by Marley Benedicto for a powerful conversation on the liberated voice, healing, freedom, and feminine power. Hi, Marley. Nice to see you.
Hi, Shannon. I'm so happy to be here. This summit is something I'm really passionate about.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. Yeah. Well, I'd love to introduce our visitors to you and tell them a bit about what you do. So, Marlena Benedicto is an intuitive visionary, artist, coach, and founder of Gaia Temple and the Harmonize method. Since 2017, she has guided individuals, couples, and communities through healing, intimacy, and conscious evolution. Her work is rooted in the belief that personal well being and planetary well being are deeply interconnected and that regeneration begins in the body. A passionate advocate for reclaiming the feminine voice, Marlena helps people reconnect with their authentic expression, intuition, and inner wisdom through sound, music, nature-based experiences, and transformational retreats. Through her work, she creates spaces for healing, belonging, and remembrance, inviting people to return to themselves and show up more fully for the world that is emerging. As a musician, facilitator, and community builder, she brings together artists, healers, activists, and changemakers to inspire a more harmonious and life-affirming future. Welcome. It's so great to have you here.
Wow. I'm like, did I write that?
Is that
I've
me?
gotta make, I know, I gotta make sure I put that on my wall and just remind myself sometimes. Thank you, Shannon.
Yeah, I know. That happens, doesn't it? It's like we're so deep into our work that to
Mm.
pull ourselves out and to see from maybe somebody else's perspective reading your bio, it's like, oh yeah, this is what I do. We get right into the minutia of things, but it's important to zoom out every once in a while. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I mean, it's just so fulfilling, all of that. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that really jumped out is this feeling of belonging and remembrance. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit about how your work helps people to feel like they belong, because I think that's a huge part of what's happening in the world right now, that people are feeling isolated. We've gone through COVID and people were absolutely isolated, but even since then, because I think people are starting to reawaken to a new way of being, and maybe that's part of this feeling of wanting to belong. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. Belonging is so important because it's the core concept of community, and community is our remembrance of our unity. And a lot of what I teach through Harmonize, which is learning how to harmonize not only with yourself, with your inner health, your mind, your spirit, and your physical body, but also learning how to harmonize with the people around you, is this is all connected to also the belief of our unity consciousness and of a metaphysical reality where we're able to understand that um, we are both the human with an ego as well as spirit, never separated from that. And so when belonging shows up, belonging is a symptom of separation. That's what I would call it. If you're not feeling belonging, belonging is a sign that you're connected to yourself and to others. But whenever we start to go into these phases of isolation, that's often accompanied by fear, by shame, by disassociation, and these more negative feelings that have us hold sickness, unwellness in the body. And that unwellness has many symptoms that it can come out with, such as anxiety, stress, anger, grief, insomnia. And then that can go further to have medical conditions such as diabetes, right? And so, first thing we want to start with is an awareness of how we are feeling inside of our body. And belonging is, do I belong here? Do I belong here in my body? And for many people at this moment, they don't feel safe in their body. And there's so many reasons for that. It's challenging to turn on um television. I don't know if people are still watching TV these days, but whether it's the television or the YouTube or the Instagram or the TikTok, whatever people are getting their media from, we're being bombarded with stories of separation that are creating deep levels of fear inside of us. And what I really want to help people understand is that you are never alone. You are completely never powerless. And this is going into the metaphysics of the work, and that you have the capability to restore your health, your vitality, and your emotional well being through the power of the voice in a way that can not only create belonging to your body, coming home again to yourself, coming home again to your sense of oneness, that connection to source, to spirit, to God, whatever name we want to give that essence of creation that moves through us, but it also reconnects us to our ability to use the power of our voice, the power of song and music, and the power of prayer to become sacred activists and to apply our deep knowing of what is truth into the world. And when people begin to feel safe in their body, they feel safe to use their voice through voice activation practices. And your voice is truly the tool to take you from who it is that you think you are, that so many people are trying to hide and suppress, and all these ideas in your mind of ways that we could do things differently to improve culture, to improve life, to sustain life for this whole planet. Your voice is the catalyst to help create that change. And it's what allows things to come into your field to affirm that and to, um, what's it called? Not magnetize, but to multiply impact, you know? So I won't go too deep into it, but recently, Marianne Williamson was speaking at my church. I go to the Unity Center here in Ashland, Oregon, and I love Marianne. She's a fire. She's just on fire, and she doesn't stay away from challenging topics. And after listening to her, I just started saying, show me where I can use this sacred rage that's alive inside of me, because I'm able to sustain a high frequency through my practices, but not deny the human emotions that arise through the practice of staying conscious
Mhm.
and staying involved. And how can I use the sacred rage? And how can I not be angry at patriarchal structures that might be degrading our planet? Well, I'm going to enroll my divine masculine. I went for my right side of the body because that's the masculine energy of our bodies. I'm going to enroll my divine masculine, who I've healed and worked with, and I'm going to ask it to step up and using the intuitive powers of my divine feminine and the grace of my divine feminine that I've cultivated through forgiveness of the destructive toxic masculinity that we've had to grow through. I'm going to start asking bigger questions. And before I know it, 2 days later, I'm super deep into data center preventative measures of how do we keep these buildings out of our county. And as soon as you ask the question, as soon as you say the prayer, as soon as you sing the song, it comes into your life in a way to help you be a catalyst for change. And that might start with, how do I let go of these feelings of lethargy and depression? How do I cultivate more gratitude and presence in my life? And once you have healed yourself, the purpose of healing for self is healing within relationship. And once you've mastered that, healing for the whole.
Wow, you've just touched upon so many beautiful things here. And I love when you talked about calling in your divine masculine and calling in your divine feminine. And I think there's part of the balancing that's happening right now is, rather than this idea of the feminine sort of rejecting the internal masculine, because I could even say for myself, I grew up with a single mother. I had to do so much on my own. I became very, hyper capable and hyper able to do so many things that when I started to understand my divine feminine, it was almost like I was angry at my divine masculine. Like, it was almost like I wanted to push it away from me and be like, "I don't wanna be that anymore." And so I loved what you were saying, that you're calling upon your team, basically. You're calling upon that inner masculine and inner feminine. And what it brings me to is really reclaiming the voice for women, and why is it so important for women right now to be stepping into our voice? You know, you talked about the voice as the tool to help us to bring in our highest potential. So can you explain a little bit more about how you work with the voice and bring it into that context of the masculine feminine if you'd like?
Yes. Yes, yes, yum. I love all these questions. What a great rocket launch into this conversation. It was back during the very start of COVID in 2020. I was living in Hawaii in a 500-year-old mango grove on the ocean, pretty isolated from what was about to start happening in the rest of the world, going deep. And when COVID began, I was watching a live stream with Jane Goodall. And Jane Goodall opened this large series, and she said, "This is a time for women to step up because we have evolutionary genes. We have been primed and perfected through evolution as nurturers and as caretakers, and the feminine across species. We have the capacity to consider the needs of the whole. We have a holistic consideration that is deeply embedded in our ability to be nurturing, to be caretaking, that's seated in motherhood, that's seated in what it takes to surrender your body for the length of a pregnancy, to hold a secondary consciousness within the vessel of this human form. Wow, to fully give yourself over to that, and then to be the sustenance of that child as you're raising it. And ideally, we're doing this in partnership. Ideally, we're doing this in loving partnership and the radical support where a container is being held, where there is the river banks are there by our divine counterpart, whether that's a man or a woman. And we're talking, men and women, but these energies live inside both of us. And so a woman's voice is so important because often we have been the whisper in the ear. When you look at a large amount of history that's been portrayed, it's been primarily led by men. But that's just not true. There's always been a woman next to that man. There's always been somebody with that vigilant heart and perspective and the courage to stand next to and be the guide. And you could even say, like, the steward to the movements that typically have come through men. And women have realized that part of the rebalancing is them coming more into the material form. Women, we work so energetic. And the voice here, it said that Saraswati, the Hindu goddess, sang existence into reality. And if we break that down into metaphysical reality and quantum physics, everything at its base nature is just vibration. Everything's just vibrating. Like that's what we're working with. And then within that, sound is vibration. And so your ability to weave a cosmic dream, your ability to send your prayer out happens through your voice, and it can happen through song. And women, we see things differently. And our voices haven't been fairly represented. Our voices are currently being radically stripped here in the United States. And um, when that anger arises, use it. Not as separation, not as judgment, not to make anybody wrong, but to get into if this brings up a sense of injustice inside of me that is so strong. Number one, where is this reflected in my personal life? Okay, because we go meta micro, we go back and forth. We are a mirror representation of our greater reality. So if I'm sensing that there's like somebody's being belittled, somebody's being entrapped, there's slavery going on. Where am I doing that to myself or to others in my life? And can I start to clear my own slate? And a lot of that uses the power of the voice, specifically through our ability to communicate with one another, nonviolent communication. There's communication formulas that I work with. I do a lot of not only women's empowerment, but couple work because what I found is through the field of women's empowerment and doing women's empowerment for so long, which I love, is women get to this place where they are then all alone. And we're not here to do this alone. We need men. We need all human. We need all the humans and even other species. This is a whole planetary thing that we're moving into. And so being able to communicate and using love as a catalyst, relationships are our fastest reflection. It's the fastest way to grow is through loving relationship and communication is how we do this. For me, I know what it's like to feel very suppressed. There was in my early 20s I was completely involved in corporate America, the classic cult culture of what we could call mainstream. And I didn't have the awareness or the perspective of things that we're talking about today. And I just did the traditional, you know, go to college, get a good job, get married, have babies. And right before have babies, I was like, I woke up. I started meditating. And when I started meditating, it was like the veil came down and I started to see things differently. But it took me 4 years of internal struggle and pain and strife before I could start to use my voice to make changes in my life, before I could leave that decade-long super successful job, before I could leave my husband and my in-laws, before I could make the changes in my life. And I didn't realize how much I was enslaving and entrapping myself because I was so overcome by fear and inability to speak my truth. And through a session with a counselor, which is how I help people today, we were seeing somebody for a year and a half. And he said, Marley, go look out the window. And I was like, whatever. So I go look out the window and he starts asking me questions. And because my awareness is on the palm trees going down Santa Monica Boulevard, not in the room, for the first time ever, I started speaking truth. And it wasn't that I was lying before. It was that my nervous system was so scared and I didn't know it. My body was so entrapped that truth couldn't even come to me
Mm.
to know what it was that my truth was for my best health, for my best way forward. And that was a breakthrough session. And something that I teach people today is what I learned. And this was over a decade ago. Now I speak my truth at all wins. But we had to start practicing speaking from different levels of the house. He would be up in the loft and I would be downstairs. And then we were able to talk on the same level of the house, but I'd have to be looking out a window until I could be looking into the house, but we'd be different rooms on the same floor until finally we could be in the same room facing each other. Of course, this was a wonderful man. It just wasn't the right relationship. And that's another hard part. So often people think that there have to be problems, but when you realize that your soul's out of alignment, it will cause suffering until you go back into alignment, no matter what. And so our voice and our ability to communicate is key there. Um, and then a secondary part that I'm sure we're going to touch on is regulating the nervous system.
Yeah, I'd love to talk a little bit about that because you did speak about how entrapped you were inside of you, and that was probably part of it. And we know this with our nervous system that we can't speak or sing when we're nervous or when we're not feeling embodied and relaxed because our throat actually closes up. Our vagus nerve doesn't allow the gentle softness to open of our voice, and that's a big sign, when people are nervous, that the throat actually closes right down. So can you speak a little bit about that and go through some of the nervous system regulation work that you do, and why is the nervous system so important when it comes to singing, sound, vibration, and speaking our truth?
Okay. Wonderful. I love this.
Let's go. Let's get into it.
So whenever you're singing, toning, you're vibrating your vocal cords. When your vocal cords are vibrating, your vocal cords rest right against the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve begins to vibrate as well. It's being stimulated at the same time. Now, the vagus nerve is the longest nerve in our human body. It reaches up, connecting to the brainstem, connecting to the hypothalamus, which is responsible for regulating our emotions. So when we're toning and singing, we begin to regulate the emotions in the brain. At the same time, that vagus nerve is extending down into the body like roots of a tree, touching our organs, the spleen, the heart, all the way down to the cervix for women. And those subtle vibrations begin to stimulate the organs of the body, right? Which begins to settle the body, begins to relax the body, and it also begins to drop our energy, which is likely stuck in the mind, back into the body. So this is a very quick embodiment tool. Very important that we are able to feel our body because our body's where the truth is. The mind is where we often get caught. And so this tool helps us regulate the nervous system, which drops the life force energy deep into the body so we can feel our feet, we can feel our fingers, we can feel our shoulders, we can feel our chest, and then consciously begin to adjust and move our body as we need to come back home to feel safe. Um, Additionally, whenever we begin to work with sound, again, we are frequency. So each one of the chakras are energy centers, and we're going to go into more Eastern medicine here. So this seems woo-woo in the United States because we haven't been taught Eastern medicine, but I've lived in Southeast Asia, studied over there, studied in India. And when we begin to work with Eastern medicine, it's a holistic medicine where we're working with energy. So our body's covered in energy meridians, which you could say are like the super freeways of life coursing through our body. And when we're experiencing stress, a repetitive negative thought, overwhelm, more often than not, what's occurring is trauma. It's a traumatic response because something has happened in the past, either directly to us or to our ancestors, our mother, our grandmother, our father, our grandfather. And the body believes that, let's say a dog barks across the street, all of a sudden the body believes that you're in danger because when you were 5 years old, you were chased down the street by the neighbor's dog. So you don't know why all of a sudden you start fighting with your boyfriend because you heard a dog bark, but it's because your body went into a state of stress and fight or flight, right? And so when we're working with the energy body, we start to use the voice to alleviate stuck energy. Additionally, I help people with tapping, EFT. So we're actually stimulating direct energy meridians while using psychology and talk therapy. Once again, using the voice. And so this is how we can start to be proactive about neutralizing trauma, about becoming aware of where we're residing in our body. Are we actually safe at home? Because if we're not, often there's a screen of something playing in front of us that's creating a narrative that's not truth.
Mm.
And whenever you're singing, again, each of the primary energy centers known as the chakras, they each have a note. And so when we work with the root chakra, that's the base, that's security, that's home, that's the C note. So when I'm working with clients, I have exercises and meditations for them where, based off of what they're experiencing, we will work with specific notes. The sacral chakra, which is our sexuality, our creativity. Someone's gone through a lot of sexual trauma or inherited that from their lineage. We're going to work with the D note.
Mm.
The E note is the solar plexus. If somebody doesn't have confidence, they don't feel like they belong, if they aren't able to get things done in their life, we're going to work with the E note. And so on it goes. F for the heart, G for the throat, A for the third eye, and we keep going. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Oh my gosh, beautiful. I love where you're taking us here. And when you're working with the chakras and you're working with those notes, are you prescribing? I guess we don't really say prescribing, but are you suggesting certain tones, certain ways of singing? Are you suggesting mantras? Tell us a little bit more about what does that actually look like for your clients?
Yeah. Well, so Harmonize is the voice activation modality specifically. It's an 8-year body of work. And first we just begin with a regular tapping session, like to understand what is the relationship with your voice.
Mm.
So many people just need to be witnessed in the relationship with their voice. before they even understand what's going on and why it's so difficult or disconnected, or what the block is between where they are and where they want to be. From there, we then go into connecting to the home of the voice. And so giving them vocal practices to connect deep into the womb space, the sacral chakra, that second energy center, is the home of the voice. So when we're speaking and when we're singing, we want to pull our voice from that place in the body. So there's specific exercises to help people just anchor in to the home of their voice. And as we're doing that, there's a lot of clearing that happens, especially sexual healing, sexual activation. A lot of women find me when they're going through their sexual awakening and they aren't quite sure what's going on. And a lot of people find me when they're ready to alleviate and relieve themselves of the trauma and side effects of sexual assault. And so that's part of coming home to the body. And then we go through different confidence building exercises, articulation exercises, light language, playing around, working with the inner child, with the voice, communication formulas for practical application in everyday life. And then ultimately, that depends on how far we're working together, but, I work with clients up to 8 months at a time. Then we start to go into real world building. Like, you have a magic wand, now that we've cleared the energy, now that we're really self-realized and connected to your true self, we've worked out the distortions, let's go. And then I have a very large business background, and I love empowering women who want to change their life for the better to change the world. And so that's where it gets to be really fun, and we begin to move past voice work. We integrate other healing modalities if it's necessary, but it becomes very practical, action oriented.
Wow. Oh my goodness. I'm like, oh, I want to work with Riley.
It's very fun.
Love how clear everything is, the way you're presenting. You have such a great structure, and that's what so many people are looking for. And I think that's also, the balance of the structure and the groundedness and, holding space and being clear. And then the playfulness and the living, I call it the circle and the square. I feel like the square is this reality that we're in. Everything is square. Our homes are often square. My computer's square that I'm looking at you. And then the circle is where we dream. It's where we play. It's where we create. And I see you've got this beautiful sun behind you, or this, beautiful round shape behind you. And they fit so perfectly together. It's such an ancient symbol, the circle and the square. So I just wanted to, to honor you and do in what you're doing because it really feels like a beautiful mix of the circle and square. So yeah. So I'd love for you to guide us on something experiential so people can really get a taste of how you do this work. So yeah, take
Mhm.
it away.
Absolutely. Yeah, the circle and square is wonderful. The yin and the yang, the masculine and the feminine, finding the balance. And fun fact, I love sacred architecture specifically for the sound that sacred architecture creates, like cathedrals, capitol buildings, and domes. My last home that I was living in was actually a cathedral dome. Living in that, the energetics were amazing, completely different way of living. Um, but we'll bring it back to doing a little demo. Side
Awesome.
note, look into dome homes.
Yes.
Um, so we're just gonna start to work with coming home. So um, at the beginning here is coming home to the voice. And so this is a simple exercise, but it's a way that you can very quickly regulate your nervous system. It's by activating the voice to activate the vagus nerve, regulate the emotions, and to feel the inside of your body.
Mm.
So, if you're comfortable, I invite you to go ahead and close down your eyes. I'm going to close my eyes and bring the gaze inward. And just resting, if you're listening to this and you're in a car, do this when you're at home. But ideally, you're just resting at home. Uncross your legs if your legs are crossed, both feet on the floor. Taking a deep breath of air in through the nose, filling the lungs, feeling the diaphragm expand, connecting to the spine and the back side of the body. Exhaling out of the mouth, relaxing the jaw, letting the breath go. Breathing in again through the nose, this time feeling the lower belly. Breathing into the lower belly, feeling the low belly expand, feeling the hips and the sit bones, softening the palms. Breathing up into the front side of the heart. And exhaling out of the mouth, relaxing the jaw, letting the breath go. Let's take one more breath. This one, deepest breath yet, connecting to the front side of the heart. Breathing in, filling the lungs, feeling the shoulders relax, noticing any other tension that might be arising. See if you can use this exhale to just exhale it out. And then closing the mouth, we're going to continue to breathe in and out through the nose. And I want you to feel your jaw relax and press the top of your tongue against the roof of your mouth. Breathing in and out through the nose, feeling the tongue against the roof of the mouth, feeling the jaw relax. Noticing anything that's arising in the body, using the breath to just release any stress. And this time, as we exhale, we're going to begin to hum. Any hum at all, but keeping the eyes closed, keeping the top of the tongue resting against the roof of the mouth, breathing in. Breathing in through the nose, and as you exhale, exhale in with the hum, feeling the vibration. Again, breathing in through the nose, and as you exhale, humming. And this time, as you feel the vibration, see if you can start to feel your core body as well. Mm. Continuing to hum with the tongue pressed against the roof of the mouth, jaw relaxed, and beginning to feel the humming sensation washing over your body with every exhale as you hum, as though that humming was a blanket coming down over your shoulders, over your chest, down your arms, down the breast and the rib cage, the solar plexus, down the waist, down into the belly, into the hips, down into the sit bones, down into the womb, pelvic. Inhaling, exhaling with a hum, and bring that awareness all the way down through the thighs, the knees, feeling the inside of your body continuing to hum all the way down to the shins and the calves and the ankles, the heels of the feet, the soles of the feet, each and every toe. Breathing in, feeling the palms of the hands, each of the fingers and the thumbs, the wrists and the forearms. Continuing to hum, feeling the inside of your body, feeling the elbows, the biceps, the triceps, all the way up to the shoulders, to the throat. We're going to do this just a little bit longer, breathing in through the nose, exhaling as you hum. This time I'm inviting you with your eyes closed to bring both hands just below the belly button, palms touching that womb space. And this time, as you inhale, bringing your awareness to the heat of your hands against the low belly. As you exhale, feeling the sacral, feeling the womb, connecting to the dantian, breathing in from the womb space. And this time, as you sound with the voice, I want you to imagine that the voice is coming from this womb space. Deep breaths in between the humming. And notice as you're feeling into the low belly, into the womb, if thoughts are arising, bring your attention to just listening to the sound of your voice. Continuing to hum, jaw relaxed, feeling the inside of the body, allowing thoughts to pass as you listen and focus your attention on the sound and sensation of the humming, the sensation of your hands over the sacral. Let's do two more. Last one, breathing in. Mm. And at the end of the last time, go ahead and keep your eyes closed, relaxing the hands, taking a moment to just listen for the sound furthest away from you. Now listening for the sound nearest to you. And if that sound isn't the beating of your very own heart, listen even closer. And whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and come back in, maybe wiggling the fingers and the toes, opening the eyes, just noticing any difference in your vision as you look around the room, your sense of self. It's a really powerful exercise to ground you into the present moment, to ground you into the body, to relax the nervous system. You can do this by yourself or you can do this with others. It's really powerful before important conversation with a partner. It's a great way to open a workshop to bring everybody into the same space or to close and land a container as well. So that way each person comes back to themselves after so much has been shared. Um, and you can do this for 30 seconds anywhere for a quick hit to just reset the nervous system, or you can do it for 2 minutes to really come all the way back into your body and clear your space.
So beautiful. I love that. And I'm thinking too, for all the sound healers out there who are starting to awaken their own voices, bringing this into a sound bath and doing this with the community beforehand. Because sometimes people arrive at a sound healing and they're still a little bit nervous. They still aren't sure exactly what to expect. And to go straight into laying down and listening to sounds that might not sound very familiar to people, this could be a really beautiful process. So, reminding all of you out there that your voice is your most natural, original instrument, as this is really what Marley's showing us here. And don't be afraid of it. Like, spend some time getting to know your voice because even just humming, and how can we do that wrong? It seems to be such an easy and accessible way to ground ourselves. And everyone has it, it's available. Oh, thank you. That was a very sacred experience for me, being guided by you. And so, one of the questions I like to ask Marley is, What are sacred sounds? How would you talk about the sacred and the sacred sounds that we have in our world?
Oh, man. I mean, gosh. What I guess from there, it's like, what is not sacred?
Hmm.
If you are able to be in the totality of duality, when I think of what is a sacred sound, I think of, you know, the first sound a baby makes as they're born. I think of the birds in the morning and the frogs at night. I think of a woman wailing and being in her wholeness of expression. I think of um, our ability to use our voice as a tool of construction rather than destruction. I think of spells. I think that so many people aren't conscious of how something like gossip and negative speech is a spell that we cast upon ourselves and others. So subtle, but really being able to listen and notice, am I complaining? Am I blaming? Am I judging? Am I wronging? Am I othering? To be able to use the voice instead for beauty, for benevolence, for peace, which is really what we all would love to have more of in our life. And then once you work with the voice, for me, I was terrified of my voice and I didn't even know it until my voice woke up. And it was a sporadic awakening. It happened, I woke up through meditation and then I had my sexual awakening, and then, almost immediately after that, I had my vocal awakening, and I was with 4 other women, and the bath practitioner said, her name's Leah Livefree, this was when I was living in Los Angeles, um, and Nazria Beck-Weir was hosting this small group of us, and, um, Leah said, "If you feel compelled to sing along, sing along." And I was so scared, even though I was right there with, like, good friends, people I knew well. I was so scared, it felt like a death threat that I knew I had to sing. It was so scary. And when I sang, what happened was this primordial voice tore through my body. And as it did, the transmission was so strong. I was a very different person back then. Now I can integrate and speak about this calmly, but back then all of us were completely overcome by the strength of this vocal song, singing that, like what used to happen in ceremonies, shamans would transport together. As the song moved through my body, it started in the sacral, it moved to the heart, and then finally to the crown. Each one of those energy centers was guiding us through one of my past lives, first as a slave, then as a queen, and then as a wisdom keeper. And in each one of those incarnations, my dharma was to use the power of the voice for liberation and to remind others of their inherent freedom through the voice. And when that channel, it went from deep guttural to first soprano operatic, full on opera,
Wow.
and the channel closed, and we're all back on a living room floor. It was like, I didn't know what to do. All of a sudden, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what was going on, and what was even scarier was I couldn't pretend it didn't happen because I was witnessed.
Yeah.
There was accountability, and they were right there with me. And that began a vision quest that took me to India. And it's been, a decade since that experience. And I still get nervous. And you know what? I read somewhere that Beyonce still gets nervous when she gets on stage. And so let's just love up our little selves that get scared using the voice, because it is the most pleasurable thing that we can do is when we start singing. And nobody I love when I hear someone say, "I can't sing," because 'cause I'm like, "Oh, honey, oh, sir, like, you can sing, and if there's a thought in you that thinks this doesn't sound good, well, just work on something that feels good, Because if it feels good in your body, if you can just make sound that starts to feel good, that sounds good. Because what we hear when we listen to one another is how somebody feels inside, right? Like, that you're hearing the inside of a person, you're hearing their soul. So I always just say, like, find the pleasure in sound and don't try to make yourself like a lot of people that come to me used to be, they're formally trained performing musicians. A lot of people will find me because they lost the heart of their art. And that's devastating. So we have to do a lot of inner child and unstructure all the commands that were put on them. Um, but no matter what, this should be fun. And that's what you want to put out there is your joy.
Yes. Oh, your story of how your voice awakened at that time just blows my mind. I love what you said. I was right there with you on your journey as you were explaining. And I can see that. I can imagine this experience happening for you. And it's so true. We all can sing. And part of it is just letting go of this idea that we have to be something perfect. We have to look like Beyonce or some pop star in order to do that. And it's time to liberate ourselves from these old, outdated stories. We are sovereign beings, and our voices are meant to ring out into the world. So I love all of what you've shared with us today, Marley, and I really feel your deep connection and commitment to the sacredness of this work. So I just want to thank you. And I'd love for you to share with us, how can people find you? Would you like to talk about your free gift? Give us a little bit of a rundown and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Shannon. It's so beautiful whenever we have opportunities to come together and share in this way. And so I'm incredibly grateful to be meeting you, to be meeting the people that will be listening in, and to be sharing this with my community as well, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of nuggets here. Um, as far as finding me, I'm like dipping out of social media these days. You can find me on Instagram. It's my first name dot, like, period, last name, Marley dot Benedicto. Um, I'm more active on Substack. Substack, I'm starting to do daily prayers, so just of affirmative prayer process, which is just beautiful, something that you can put in your pocket every day to remind you of who you really are and, why we're all here together right now, loving each other up. Um, and then, obviously, the most direct way to work with me is my free gift is actually a discovery call. So that's an opportunity to meet me directly over Zoom, over an hour-long call. And this discovery call is how I begin people on their journey of really looking at what is their relationship with their voice. And so if somebody is listening in and they're like, I want to know myself in this way. Like, I want to feel that connection. I want to heal my body. I want to heal my relationships. I want to be a beneficial presence on this planet in every way that I possibly can from the inside out. I want life to feel good. Like, sign up for this discovery call. We get to know one another. Um, I work with a handful of clients at a time. And so, we might not begin working together right away, but we can definitely get you at least on a waiting list if it's not open at that moment. And these discovery calls are profound breakthroughs. Like, nobody leaves without a transformation from just this first free session. And then from there, we look at if you want to go into the Harmonize program or if you want to do one-on-one coaching work. Um, and Harmonize is focused specifically on the voice, trauma around the voice, empowerment of the voice, and how that works into your everyday life. And then one-on-one coaching goes into a much wider spectrum. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, beautiful. Well, what a generous offer. And yeah, there's so many people out there awakening their voices. As we said, now is the time, people. It's time to step into our power and to our sacredness. So thank you so much, Marlee. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today on the Sacred Sound Summit. Please do look on this page. You'll find Marlee's information. And if you have any feedback about this conversation, if you have your own specific questions for Marlee, put them in the Facebook group. I'll be there monitoring, and we look forward to chatting with you there. And please come back. We have many more speakers at the Sacred Sound Summit. So thank you again, Marlee. Be well, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Yay.